Welcome to the In Between podcast. I'm excited to introduce Brianna Rose, a light leader and nervous system regulation and embodiment coach, passionate about helping high achievers rewire their bodies to hold more success, wealth, and visibility. Welcome, Brianna.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I know. We're doing an early morning pod for me. Normally I do them in the afternoon, so I'm like super excited. I have the energy. I'm like, maybe I'm going to be changing these up and recording early in the morning. I want to just get right into the nitty gritty. I was stalking your Instagram earlier and there was a post talking about the future of leadership. And I want to just jump right into that question. What is the future of leadership? What do you see coming forward?
Yeah, great question. So I have been an entrepreneur for the last 13, 14 years. And specifically, I've always been in like the healing industry, coaching industry, personal development industry. And it's just been really cool to have, a decade plus years like of just seeing the industry and like what the trends are. And what's really cool and what I'm noticing is people are recognizing and realizing that mindset work isn't enough, or just like telling themselves that you can do this, have the confidence, and even just like meditation. It's not enough. We need something a little bit deeper. People are recognizing that those belief systems or those affirmations that they're trying to like imprint in their bodies, they're not sticking. Like maybe they'll feel good for like in that moment or like for a day or so, but then that story, that belief, it's right there. It's like wherever you are, there you are, right? It's like I'm still here. There's still that belief. And so for me, the future of leadership, what I've been noticing the last couple of years is this deep understanding of the body's role in leadership, nervous system in leadership. And so for me, that post specifically, I was talking about somatics, which is essentially just understanding how the body works. The body is deeply connected to our nervous system, to, of course, our muscle memory, our emotional regulation. And if we don't address that, the mind is never going to be on board with what you're trying to tell yourself. The body is like a sponge and it's always absorbing everything that's happening in our life, whether it's like the good stuff or the not so good stuff. It remembers. And there's so much literature out now about how the body keeps the score, and the body is like this like silent bystander absorbing everything. And so if we don't address all of the memories the body has been storing, you can tell yourself that you are an amazing public speaker. You can tell yourself that you are going to become a 7-figure business owner, or whatever the story is, but it won't actually come to fruition because the body is going to remember all of those things that you've been telling yourself all these years. I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this? And so on. And so we have to first address the body for everything else to stick, like mindset work, energy healing, all that stuff.
That is so powerful and so true. I've noticed it in my own life, and we've had other energy workers come on, and just the proof is in what you guys are doing, right? Yeah. Like the mindset, I think it had to be the first step in order to get to where we're going, right? Like the body, we couldn't have jumped straight to the body. We had to start with tipping our toe into the mindset work and then realizing it's just not enough. Yeah. So where did your journey start with this? Yeah. Where were you like, okay, something's off. I need to get into my own body, and then become passionate about it enough to teach other people?
Yeah. Great question. I would say if we go like way back, I was always like a dancer and someone that was always in tune with their body, but I never correlated that to like success or leadership or whatnot. But I think we all know this. When we go to the gym, we go take a class, we always feel better after. Like I always knew if I just moved my body, I'd feel good. So that was kind of like the basis and the baseline. But in 2012, 2013, I had a spiritual awakening. One of my closest friends, she passed away like just like overnight. And it was like, it just rocked my world. And at the time, I was a PR marketing director living in New York, just had my like girl boss hustle culture on. And then that just, I don't know, it was like, oh my gosh, there's something here. I can't see the world the same way that I've been seeing it. And so I just dove head deep into energy, spirituality, mediumship. I studied that for a couple of years, and just understanding what's happening through the grief process, but also it was like, what is energy? It was like a whole new world that I was learning. And I feel like because of that dance background, I just started to play around with like postures and mudras and yoga sequences. That was what really called to me. And again, I was like, all right, when I do this sequence or I do this breath work, I feel better. But like, why am I feeling better? What is it actually doing? And way back then, I wasn't really getting answers. We were very much more in like this like guru on the pedestal type of culture. And people were like, just listen to the guru, just listen to the teacher. But I was like, but why? My marketing brain was like, but why is this working? Like, how is this happening? What is the trend? What is the pattern? And so that kind of kicked me down this pathway of understanding and learning about Chinese medicine and understanding the body's energy system and how the body stores beliefs and emotions and traumas. And so I started to relate the meridian system with somatic movement, and like that's an umbrella for breath work, meditation, yogic postures, and all that good stuff. And then I started to connect that to then business strategy, because I've always been in business and consulting and things of that nature. And what I started to notice was when people have these beliefs about themselves, who am I to do this, or I'm afraid of being seen, like all these very common entrepreneurial beliefs, I noticed that no matter what I told them, no matter how much I cheerleaded them on the call, the next day they were still feeling the same way, right? Like they were good on the call with me because I got that like that amp up, that dopamine hit. They're like, yeah, I've got this. And then the second I hopped off the call, they were like, fuck, I don't have this, right? And so I was like, all right, we've got to figure this out. And so I started to blend in. I was like, okay, well, where does a visibility fear live in the body? I was like, okay, let me look at the meridian system. Let me find out where it lives in the body. I was like, okay, visibility lives in the liver channel, or it lives in the gallbladder meridian. Okay, where is that in the body? Okay, what yogic posture targets that area of the body that we can start to restructure? And I started to just play around with this. Was like in 2016, 2017. I was like, let me just play with this body stuff first and see how it relates to the business. Let me test this out on myself, of course, but let me just start playing it with like my close clients that like, they're not going to think I'm crazy for trying to do this. Yeah. And they started seeing like instant results. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm onto something. And so that's really where it all started. And now we have a entire body-based business that's international and globally accredited, and we're just helping people all over the world come back to their bodies, regulate their nervous systems, and tap into their greatest wealth and success.
That is incredible. I think it's so important that you have your own story with it, and you've experienced your own fears, disconnects, and have come back to your body, because I think that's something in this field, it can come off woo-woo to people who've never been exposed to it. Sure. And to have a leader that is sitting here saying, it's worked for me. I've changed my life. Obviously, I've helped other people, but like personally, I still incorporate this every single day. Yeah. So I would love to kind of dive into some of the nitty-gritty of basic, why it's important to regulate our nervous systems. What even is a nervous system? How do I even know it's dysregulated? Because I think especially as leaders and entrepreneurs especially, all of us are dysregulated, but we don't even know it.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy you asked this question. I'm really big on making this stuff like easy and digestible, because as much as I'm spiritual, again, I had this hustle girl boss background where I'm like super grounded and practical too. And I'm like, we have to make this stuff easy and digestible and mainstream, because otherwise people aren't going to heal, right? If it sounds so frou-frou and up in the air, we're not going to be able to make the change that we want to make in the world. And so when it comes to, are we dysregulated? How do we know if we're dysregulated? I love looking up the science on all of this stuff. And so I will tell you, there is a study done where 80% of people they found have some sort of breathing dysregulation. That means that 80% of us are not even breathing correctly. And I found this to be so fascinating, because like we need to breathe to live. And so like 80% of us aren't even doing it correctly. So let's just put that there. And the reason why that's important is because guess what? Your breathing is going to dictate your nervous system. And so 80% of people aren't breathing correctly, which is making a direct impact on their nervous system. Your nervous system has two parts to it. There's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system, think about it as S for stress. This is the part of our nervous system that is the primal part of us that we've all had like through our ancestors that got us away from the tiger when the tiger is chasing us. Like it's what we need to survive. It's great, but most of us are triggering that when we are like at Starbucks ordering our coffee, or like we are like watching a reel and we got like nervous or something, and then we're walking around in this dysregulated state with our body constantly thinking everything is a threat. And you might not actually think that. This is your subconscious mind or that reptilian part of our mind that's telling us like threat, stress, which is then putting additional tax on our adrenals. And then we're tired and then we're burnt out. I'm sure many people listening to this, it's like we can't even get enough sleep because we're so tired, or we're constantly craving that next coffee, or no matter what we do, we have bags underneath our eyes and we can do all of the beauty routines, but we are seeing the bags underneath our eyes. And that is a sign that our adrenals are fatigued through the lens of Chinese medicine. So that's one part of our nervous system. The other part is the parasympathetic. So we think P for pause. And this is the part of us that feels safe, that feels grounded, that is connected to our intuition, that just kind of knows where we want to go. Most of us are not living in that because we don't know how to get out of that stress response. And so the quickest way to get out of the stress response is honestly just breathing, right? The easiest thing, but we have to breathe in a specific way. And the quickest way to do this is a long, deep breath. Once we do a long, deep breath, so that means like fully inhaling in through the nose, and then you're going to picture that breath coming down into your lower belly, allowing the lower belly to extend out, and then the breath rising from the lower belly up to the throat and then releasing it out. When we start to do that, we're beginning this process of shifting the body from sympathetic stress to parasympathetic pause. On a science level, what's happening there too is we're actually like beginning to take the adrenaline out of the bloodstream that's been pumping from that sympathetic stress of, oh my gosh, a tiger is chasing me. Even though there is no tiger in our modern day world, whatever that threat is, we are beginning to tell the body, I am safe, you are safe, and we're beginning to take that adrenaline out of the bloodstream. Now, this is important because who the hell wants to be walking around 24 hours of the day thinking that they're going to die, or like thinking that they're in this stress response? Like, of course, that's very stressful and taxing on the body. And so when we are also in that more stressful energy, guess what? We're actually not making the best decisions for us because our brain is always trying to keep us safe. And so it's, oh my gosh, Brianna, like she's stressed out. Her sympathetic nervous system is being triggered. I have to make decisions for her that are going to keep her safe. And this is like the mind's role in all of this. I have to make decisions to keep her safe. And that's why we keep staying in these patterns and behaviors that don't serve us, even though we don't want to think this way, even though this maybe isn't the reality that we want to live in. It's safe because we've been living it. So the mind is going to keep you stuck in this pattern over and over again. That's why people continue to text their ex. That's why people continue to binge drink or binge eat. This is why people continue to not ask for that raise. It's because as much as we don't want it, our body knows it to be safe. Our mind knows it to be safe. So it's going to keep choosing that thing because your body is in a state of a sympathetic response, thinking, I have to choose the thing that's going to keep me safe because the tiger is going to come get me. Now, we can see now this isn't good, right? We don't want to keep making decisions that are keeping us small. We want to change our lives. And so we have to start to regulate ourselves, come back to our bodies, learn how to breathe, because when we breathe, we start to shift, as I shared, the nervous system, the pattern that the nervous system's on, and then we can start to think differently. We can start to see the world differently. We start to take decisions and take actions that are different than what we have been doing because we can trust ourselves. We feel safe in ourselves. Our bodies feel safe. Yes, it might be something new that you're doing, but your body's, yeah, I can try something new. Yeah, I can, go out on a date with someone new. Yeah, I can go launch a program or ask for the raise. Yeah, it's new, but I feel safe, so I can try it out. And so that's why this stuff I feel is so important.
Yeah, that is so powerful. That last part what you just said, I think is so crucial because you're in the sense of going on a date or launching a course or putting yourself out there. It can be so fear-based in this world, right? Oh, I can't do that, or I'm not worthy enough to have those things. Yeah. And if your body is already safe, my interpretation, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that those things are already taken care of. You already know you're worthy. You already know that even if something happens with the course, it doesn't matter because it doesn't impact your value as a human.
Yes. Yeah. And I also feel like there's an intelligence within us that's, well, if it fails or if the date goes bad or whatever it might be, like, I'm still okay. That's not a tiger, right? Like, we can actually recognize that's not the tiger that's going to kill us or chase us. Okay, the date sucked, or okay, the launch failed, or okay, the boss said no to the raise. I'm good. I can trust myself. It's all good. It's not that bad.
How much of our limiting beliefs, our values, this sense of worthiness is connected to this relationship with our nervous system?
Oh my gosh, I feel all of it. And here's why. What's really cool is there have been scientific studies now too that have proven that limiting beliefs and traumas can be passed down to us ancestrally. So like we're getting stuff that's not even ours. So it's like we are born and we've got shit to work on. And that's why it's also so important for us to do this work, because when we do have children, we want to give them the least of the stuff, right? We want to make sure that we're doing our work so we don't pass it on. But it's really cool that yogis have known this, mystics have known this, but now modern science has proven this, which is really cool, that we're getting stuff that's not even ours. So like we are born and we've got stuff. And then also as we go through life, again, our body, our nervous system, like we don't even recognize that it's there, but it's there and it's like a sponge and it's absorbing everything. And I will just be clear, it's absorbing the good stuff too, right? It's like, it's there for the good stuff as well. But these things, these stuff that we go through, it gets trapped in our bodies. It gets stored in our cells. It gets stored in our muscle memory. It gets stored in our nervous system. And then it creates a story around it. So for example, if you're like in nursery school, and like the little kid next to you says, you know, you can't have that. This is my crayon, not your crayon. You might create a story around that. Of, oh my God, I'm not good enough to have the blue crayon. Like Johnny's better than me to have the, like, we don't even know, like our little tiny little minds, they create these stories, but now we've created a story about it. And now that might show up where when you're at work and you're going for that raise and someone else wants it, you might back away because you're like, oh, Stephanie, she wants it. She deserves it more. I should back away and let her have it, right? So that's how these stories, they stay with us and they shapeshift and they become more deep and they just show up in so many different facets of our life. And oftentimes we don't even realize it's happening until we start doing this personal development work and we're like, oh my gosh, I've been operating from this place of something that happened when I was 3 years old. I don't want 3-year-olds me making decisions, right? I think we all can agree we do not want 3-year-old versions of us making decisions. I want to be able to tap into my power now and make decisions for who I am today.
Yeah, it's wild. I just recently, are you familiar with NLP?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I just recently did my breakthrough. It was in the fall of last year. Amazing. And my business coach was like, we have to create a whole plan. And I love that we're having this conversation because a big part of it is the next phase is like looking at the somatic work, looking at the body. But it's so crucial to me that the mindset happens first, because there were so many things I wasn't even aware of that I was either projecting, that I was focusing on. And even now, like they'll come back up. Obviously those beliefs are still in me, but I'm more aware of them. And it's so easy to see how the body is holding on to it, because it's okay, well, I went through this whole process, right? Like I identified that I don't believe this, yet we're still back here struggling with the same thing. Yeah. So that is beyond the mind, right? Because if it was just the mind, I could make that choice and be like, well, I don't believe that anymore. My business is successful. Everything's
moved
fine.
on.
Yeah. And that's just like, for me, at least evidence of, okay, I made myself aware to all these things. And that's great, right? That's a huge part of it. Awareness is great. But if I'm still struggling with it, it has to be something more. Yes. And so I totally agree with what you're saying in the sense of it has to be a 2-part approach. But also, and it's funny that you bring up the lineage thing, because that's a lot of what came up for me in NLP. And that was not even something I was aware of, right? That's not a everyday conversation of, hey, what was your parents' life like? What was your grandparents, your great-grandparents? And so then it's identifying those beliefs, carrying that throughout your day. After you identify those things, kind of going back to the nervous system, what is the practice that then you would come in and be like, okay, here's how we're going to incorporate the body. Yeah. And then how would I continue to regulate my nervous system, continue to support myself somatically to ensure that these beliefs aren't disrupting my life?
Yeah, great question. Well, I love that you shared that and how just go you for doing the work. Thank you. And
it's definitely not easy, but I'm excited for the body part.
I just want to celebrate you for doing it. But basically what I would do, I created a methodology and it's called the Meridian Mapping Method. And essentially it's an energy body diagnostic method. And I created this because I went through all of these certifications and no one was telling me like when to use the breath work or when to use the Kriya or when to use the meditation. It was just like, you have these tools now, good luck. And I was like, but wait, like, how do we use these with people? How do we know which one to use? And like, yes, I could intuitively think about it, but at the time my business was scaling and I was like, I can't try to like drop into my intuition and serve 100 people. This is ineffective. It's also draining me. So I was like, I need to figure out a way that shortens this gap. So within the meridian mapping method, essentially when someone comes to me and they say, this is my block, or this is the feeling, or sometimes they don't even know. So we do some, self-reflective work. Like they just know, I know I'm stuck. I know I'm blocked. I don't know what the block is, but I'm here. And that's okay too. So I would guide them through some steps to uncover what the block is, what the belief is. So once we have identified the belief, the block, the emotion, we can figure out where it lives in the body. So based on that information alone, it's going to tell me what meridian is blocked. And then once I know what meridian is blocked, I know where it is in the body. And then once I know where it is in the body, it's like, wahaha, now I know what to do. Then I can create a somatic sequence that essentially targets that area of the body. It's similar if you've ever had acupuncture. It's kind of like acupressure. Like we are just targeting that area of the body and beginning to restructure it through the somatic sequence. And then depending on your body, depending on how it releases, you might do this for a week, you might do this for a month, you might do this for a couple of months. Everyone's body is so unique. And so we have to check in and see how the body is doing and how it's releasing. You also have to be ready to release it too, which is a big part of it. And some people, as much as they want to heal, it's scary to heal. And so they hold on and it takes a little bit more time. Or maybe it's something they've been carrying with them for decades. So that's going to take some time. But sometimes it's like a shift. They did it once, they had a release, they had a breakthrough, and boom, they're good to go. But that's how we start to reprogram the body. It takes time because when we think about even just like going to the gym and working out, we don't all of a sudden have a six pack, right? Like it takes time to rebuild that muscle memory. And that's essentially what we're doing too, and reprogramming the nervous system. And then once we do that, like the third step of the meridian mapping method is now we have to coach, essentially the mindset work. We're going to coach you because once the body releases the energy, releases the block, and we got to process it, talk about it, and begin to rewire the mind as well. And then the fourth step is then you take action on the thing that you've been wanting to take. So it's this really beautiful sequential process that we walk through. And our clients, they don't just see results. That's awesome. But for me, what I'm most proud of is they're seeing long-lasting transformation. They're not coming back in 90 days. And they're like, Brianna, like I'm seeing this again, or it's coming up again, or like even years later, I've been doing this since 2016, 2017. We've had clients that are like, I am good. Like I have another block now I want to work on because I scaled up so much and I have another ceiling to break through. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that they're creating long-term shifts and transformation.
That's incredible. And it's so needed in today's world, but also just in the beliefs that we have of ourselves and the beliefs that the culture around us that we're absorbing, Right. How do you communicate to people how to regulate their nervous system? Like obviously the goal would be to end up in your chair and get help with those specific blocks. But as far as everyday life, the chaos, the craziness, business owner or not, what are some actionable tools that we could take starting today to begin to regulate our nervous systems?
Yeah, great question. I mean, this is stuff that I use too, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not like, oh, I've healed myself and I'm perfect. I never have to use these tools. So I have a great example. The other day I was going through a shift in the business. I've been taking steps towards up leveling, which sounds great. Like doors are opening, things are happening, things are moving. And then I noticed this like wave of anxiety come in and I was like, oh my God.
The worst.
Like, yeah, I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I was doing good, and this happens for all of us where we're feeling good. And then all of a sudden, bam, the story pops up. We get the trigger. We want to go into our old patterns. We could see this a lot even with like diet culture where it's like you're good for a week and then you're like, oh, maybe now I should go get the bag of chips. Or maybe now I should go do this. And it's because our nervous system has like a meter of how much success that we can have. And once we hit that meter, then we start to rebound and repattern. And so what I've gotten good at and what I want you all to start to get good at is recognizing when that wave of anxiety come in, recognizing when that belief comes in. And it might not be natural at first, but we want to start to get good. I call like energy archaeology. We want to start to get good to like figure out like, what is this anxiety? What am I feeling, right? Again, coming back into our body. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling anxious. Okay, where am I feeling anxiety in the body? Okay, I'm feeling it in my chest. Okay, what is this anxiety really about? And this is presence we have to bring to ourselves. And this is a retraining process because we live in a very fast world and we think if we just do another thing on our checklist, the anxiety is going to be gone. Or if I just go do this other thing, all of a sudden it's going to magically go away. It's not. It's just going to be thrumming there in the baseline, in the background over and over over again. And so what we want to do is stop the pattern. And so first and foremost, we have to breathe. We have to recognize what the dis-ease is. For me, it's anxiety because that's my like predominance. That's what shows up a lot in my body. For you, it might be fear. For you, it might be depression. It could be anger, right? These emotions that we don't actually want to have, but it's just how we react. And so we want to recognize, when am I having a reaction? Okay, I'm having this reaction. I'm feeling anxious. Okay, cool. How is it showing up in my body? Okay, I'm feeling sensations in my chest. My heart is fluttering. Like, we know what anxiety is like, right? The heart is beating like crazy. Okay, cool. Let me just breathe, tell myself I'm safe. And now let's also address, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? And then we can take it a step further. Okay, who is this coming from? Is this me? Is this my story? Is this someone else's voice? Is this something, society, right? And then we can start to just bring ourselves down. And the second we just even start to do this, we start to calm. Whether it's anger, whether it's depression, whether it's fear, we can get ourselves out of it because we're coming back home and we're starting to breathe. And as we are asking ourselves that question, we're actually starting to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic because we're taking the time to have patience, to have presence, to breathe. And so this is like just a little thing that you all can do. Long, deep breathing, like it sounds so simple, but is like the most amazing tool that you can have in your toolkit, because all you need is like literally a minute. Put a minute timer on your phone and do some long, deep breathing, and you are going to start to see a shift. It doesn't stop there, but you're going to get yourself out of that pattern, out of that anxiety, out of that fear, because now you're starting to tell yourself you're safe. And again, this is going to take time to do, because most of the time we just want to fast forward through everything and we don't want to sit with our bodies and sit with our emotions. But the more we start to do it, the easier it becomes, the better that we're good at catching whatever the pattern is, whenever the block is, and then we can take it from there.
That, as you were speaking, I was like, oh, it sounds so peaceful and it's so hard.
It is.
Especially when, I tend to be leaning more anxious as well. Yeah. And when those thoughts come in and suddenly you're in an anxious state, you're almost frozen, right? Like, yes. It takes so much effort and time to just choose a different way. Yeah. And so I want people to remember it's not easy, but like you said, the more you do it, the more you use this tool, the easier it becomes to make a choice that's going to help you coming in the future.
Yeah, totally. Well, because you have to establish like the new muscle memory of it. Like the anxious thought, it's like, it's the one that can lift the 300 pounds, right? Because you've been doing it your whole life. And now we're trying to do something different. So it's going to take time, and it might feel in those moments, because I know for me, fellow anxiety person, I'm like, no, I'll breathe in a moment. I have more stuff to do, more stuff to think about. I'm like, I'll get to it later. I'll do my practice later.
I don't have 1 minute.
Right. Yeah. I don't have a minute. And it's like such bullshit, right? It's like, we know like it's our ego, but I'm human. And I was doing it the other day, and then finally I was like, wait, no, like we're not doing this. We're gonna go sit on our meditation pillow and just fucking breathe for a minute and we'll be good. Yeah. But it takes time, and we have to just create that memory. But what's cool is when we start to create the memory, like I just did, I can catch it now because I've been doing this a while. I can catch it. I'm starting to create the new muscle memory, and that's starting to feel stronger than the anxious thought.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's so important to do it. A while ago, and I probably should practice this more, I had been practicing where anytime I would get in my car before I would go to the next place, I would breathe. And it was more so to trigger myself to learn that the breathing helps. Like, it was like, it's a transition moment. I'm obviously going to have some sort of feelings or energy as I transition to the next appointment, or even just going to the grocery store. And it was like a micro habit that I was trying to practice to show myself that breathing was safe. Yeah. It was such a useful tool. I need to start bringing it back to my life. Are you
coaching yourself right now?
Yeah, I need to. But I'm curious from your perspective, like, why does the body resist these things, right? Why does the body resist also like change in general? Like, I'm sure as you work with your clients, like you just mentioned, there's resistance in those changes. And is there a way to reprogram that? Are we always going to resist these things? It's just frustrating.
Yeah, great question. Short answer is no, we won't always resist these things. But when we think about it, a lot of us have been doing these things for 30 years. So it's going to take longer than like a month or 6 months, sometimes even a year to reprogram it. But when we think about it, 1 year into comparison to 30 years, we're not doing too bad if it takes only a year to reprogram something that's taken that long or we've been holding on to for that long. So I think that's important, because I feel like in our Western world, we want things to happen fast. We all remember those like 90s infomercials where it was like, take this pill and you will lose 50 pounds tomorrow, right? And like, we know that doesn't work, but there's still a part of us, I'm going to order the pill. I'm going to see what happens. Maybe it'll work for me. And so we have that type of mindset when it goes into this, where it's, oh, I'll do the meditation, I'll do the Kriya, I'll do the breath work. Why aren't I fixed yet? And we have to remember a lot of times this stuff, first of all, it could also not even be our stuff, right? So it's been with us our whole life, or it's been with us for a significant part of our life, and it's going to take time to reprogram, to repattern. So that's one part that I want to answer. But the second part, and what I've recognized is, you know, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, or a career driven or not, I feel that we are innately afraid of success. And I feel we are afraid, and however you determine success is your definition of it. But we're afraid of success because it's different than the reality that we currently have. And oftentimes our version of success is different than the way that we were raised. So we are changing the pattern. We are changing the story. We're rewriting our lineage. And that could be like, yes, it could be you becoming a millionaire, but it could also be you becoming like a mom that isn't triggered, or, you know, whatever it might be. We are changing, and it's different than how we were raised. And maybe it's different than what we're seeing in the world. And it feels fearful. And so when we feel that fearfulness, that sympathetic nervous system response triggers in, it's like, oh, Brianna's afraid. Why is she afraid? Let me try to save her. Let me keep her safe and go back to this pattern that she doesn't really want, but it is safe because she's been alive. And it's kept her alive. It's safe. And I think that's a big part of it. And so what I have my students do is like first define what is success for you, because that's going to look so different for everyone. But also, let's also begin to map out, like in detail, what is going to change. And I find that when we recognize how success, and again, whatever success means for you, how it's going to change our life, we start to create a safety with it. And we're like, oh, that's not that bad. Like, oh, I know what's going to happen next, versus you're on this path, you have no idea what's happening, and it feels really scary. We can start to create a relationship with our version of success. And this is more than just like having the Pinterest board, or more than just having the vision board. You know, it's getting into nitty gritty detail of like, when I do this is going to happen, or when I do this might happen in my relationship, or when this happens and I achieve this goal, this is how it's going to impact me personally and professionally. And this is what I need to do to support myself. So we start, and these things can change, but we're giving ourselves a roadmap, and we start to feel safe because now we're having direction.
That's so powerful, especially if you're a business owner, because I think so many times people fall into business and they're like, oh, I didn't really expect this. And all of those beliefs come up, especially, yes. I mean, that happened for me, and it still does. It's okay, well, I maybe thought I was going to go a certain way based off of going to college, you get a job, you do all these things. And now you're going against this path that your lineage hasn't gone through. You have no evidence it works. You're just like out there in the middle of nowhere trying to figure out, okay, this can be safe and I can be successful. Yeah. I just need to lean into trusting myself.
Yeah, totally. And what I'll add to that too is, yes, you might not have like personally any evidence of it working, but also that's why it's so important to hire mentors, or just attend even like just groups and whatnot that are doing the thing that you want to do, because that's also going to help prove to the subconscious mind, one, that it can be done, and two, that it's safe, because these people are alive and well, and they have families or whatever it might be. And it's, oh, like it isn't so scary, they're doing it. And that's why I think it's so great to always invest in a mentor, always just be around like sisterhood and community of people that are not just like you, but people that are living, breathing, doing the thing that you want to do. That's going to help you make that decision and get there faster too.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to gather the evidence as you do it, right? I think sometimes for me, one of my triggers with anxiety is, oh my gosh, well, what if I can't do this specific thing or get this specific client? And then I'm like, oh, well, if I pause and I look at all the clients I've already received, or all the clients that I've already done great work for, it's, well, why wouldn't I be able to do that, right? It's just a fear that almost doesn't add up based off the evidence I already have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's so important to do that inventory, because I had a mentor once, and it's like memos. We have to like crumble up the old memos we've been telling ourselves and rewrite them and put like a new sticky note up of, no, this is not even true anymore. This is our new reality. Look at what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that imagery too, of just kind of tossing.
Yes.
I'm an image person, so I love that. I want to go into embodiment now, because I'm not as familiar with this. So I would love for you to just tell us how embodiment plays into all of this. What is it? Why is it important? And how we can practice it?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I feel like there's so many ways that we can define all these words, but for me, like somatics and embodiment are kind of one in the same in the sense because once you start to heal the body and once you are regulating yourself, and that doesn't mean that we can't ever be in the sympathetic nervous system. That is great. Like when you are launching and you are going for the job or you need to do something and get out there, we want to work with it. So I'm not trying to give it a bad rap, but once we do those things, there is this voice that we can begin to listen from within us, this like voice of the intuition, this voice of the soul, and that's going to start to guide us to where we are meant to be. And so for me, embodiment is synonymous, yes, it's somatics, but for me, embodiment is like I'm going after the thing that my soul wants me to do. Like I am embodying and I am trusting the voice, the whispers, and I'm also taking action on it and I am becoming it. There's that saying of fake it till you make it, and for me, it's embody it until you become it. And so embodying is becoming that version of you by every single day, taking those steps, acting as if, showing up in the way that you want to show up. And eventually you do it enough, you become that version of you that you want to become.
That's beautiful. I think that's so important when it comes to everyday life, asking yourself the question of, okay, what is the future Cassidy need to be doing today to become her?
Yes. Totally. So important. And like just an example of it is like I have a morning practice that I do. And again, I'm human. I don't always want to do it. Like I don't always want to sit on my meditation pillow. And it's a 60-minute practice. It's an investment of my time to do it. But I sit there and like just yesterday, I was trying to find all the freaking reasons to not do it. I'm like, maybe the dishes need to be done. Maybe this needs to happen. Maybe I need to look this thing up, right? It's like the mind does its thing. And I caught myself and I was like, well, next level you, in order to become her, is she doing the dishes at 6:30 in the morning because she doesn't want to do her spiritual practice? Is she scrolling on Instagram? No, she's grounded. She has presence. She's connected to herself. She's on her meditation pillow. And when I remembered that, again, it's not easy, but when I remembered that, I was like, oh, this is the vehicle. This is the thing to help me get there. Okay, I can do this because I want to get there. And something that I say to my clients I think is applicable to everyone is we all can be psychics in our own right, because if we don't change what we're doing every single day, we can predict the future because it's just going to be our reality that we're currently living, right? If we don't make any changes, like nothing's going to change. We're going to see the same thing 6 months from now, a year from now, and so on. If we want to shift, we've got to shift ourselves. If we want to see something different in our future, we've got to change who we are today, because just by wishing for it or creating the vision board or thinking about it, it's not going to happen. That's a part of it, but we have to then take that action every single day. And so for me, that's embodiment. It's like regulating that nervous system, starting to begin that rewiring process, but then like showing the fuck up for it, right? And taking that action, even when it's scary, even when it's messy. It's being bold enough to choose a different reality than where you are right now.
What are some practices that you could share with our audience to begin to show up as that person? Maybe it's journaling, certain meditations, changing your phone graphic to remind yourself who the future person is going to be. What tips do you have?
Yeah, great question. So I think first and foremost, we have to get clear on where we're going. I'm very much like we need to have the direction. And I had another mentor that shared something that I found to be so helpful was, you know, he said so many people, they're just like in the vision, right? It's like we can just be in this like big vision energy. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be this. I want to be that. And he said that's like a ship out at sea, that it's just out at sea. It has nowhere, it doesn't know where it's going. It's just spiraling around. And but when we invite in, he calls it the masculine, but if we invite in the action steps, the direction, now the ship knows where to go. And I think that's so important. And that's what grounds this like frou-frou, head up in the sky type of energy is I also know where I'm going. Yes, I have this big vision, but now I'm mapping it out. And so I encourage all of you to like just sit with yourselves. I love to just do it on a Saturday because it just feels like there's this like quietness where people aren't like working. Yes. And I just spend a couple of hours with myself and I make it good. Like I make myself my favorite coffee. I have my favorite snacks out. Like I have the good music going and I have just a session with myself. And I'm like, hey, and I do this pretty much every quarter. I'm like, where are we going? What are we doing? What are the next steps? How am I feeling? what did I think that I wanted to achieve that no longer aligns for me any longer, and allowing myself to have that evolution, because sometimes we put these things on the vision board and then we start to do it and we realize it's not even for us, or we don't even like it, right? And so it's so important to have that check-in. So I love journaling, and then taking that and then create the vision board from it, then create, the Pinterest board from it, and then every day checking in. And for me, I'm actually looking at mine right now. I broke it down into 3 steps, like 3 things that are huge for me. I looked at everything I want to do, and I was like, okay, if I could just pull 3 main themes from this, I'd be so happy. Because, we dream big. I have a bajillion things that I want to achieve, and we have to be realistic, because can I really do all those things in 12 months? Maybe. But if I could get 3 of those things done, it would be so helpful. So I have it literally, I'm looking at it right now. It's a piece of paper, wrote it all out, and I look at it every day, and I have an intention, and then I have a power statement about it, and I say it every day before I sit down at my desk. I look at it, I feel it in my body, and then I drop in. So again, it's just that remembrance of what I want, what I'm going after, and so on. And I act as if. So like, I'm even reading it verbatim right now. It says, these are already done. Like my big 3 intentions, like they're already done. They're already happening. I am living and leading from this truth right now. So I'm already acting as if they've already happened. I'm not saying that I want to become a New York Times bestselling author. I'm saying I've already become a New York Times bestselling author, right? And that verbiage, I think, shifts a lot for us too.
How do you navigate not letting other people's energies affect these statements, these embodiment tools? I mean, obviously, we all have spouses, we have kids, we've got parents, and sometimes their energy, even without them knowing what you're trying to accomplish, can sneak in there and be like, you can't do it.
Yeah. Well, here, I have a couple of things to say about that, because in the beginning, you're excited, right? And I was excited too in the beginning. I was like telling freaking everyone, like anyone that would talk to me, I was like, this is what I want to do.
You quickly take that back.
Yeah, right? And then I was like, oh no, why did I say that? Now this person, they don't get it. And then you can feel yourself shrink, right? Like when someone isn't on the vibe with it. And like, I do feel like people, they love us and it's coming from a loving way, but it's like, it's their own fears that they're projecting onto us. And so my lesson that I've learned that I'll share with you all is keep it sacred, right? Share the people that, share it with people that that have your highest intention in mind until you fully embody it. Because now at this point, like I could tell a person on the street, and if they're like, Brianna, that would never happen, I'd be like, I don't care what you think, right? I know it to be true, but we have to work our way into that. So in the beginning, keep it sacred, share it with just the people, like the chosen people in your life that that can handle this and that will support you, because you're like fragile. You're like an infant with these ideas and these thoughts. You haven't built that strength just yet. And it's true, other people's energies might mess with yours and they might make you second guess yourself. And so until you are fully connected to them, until you can stand in conviction of them, keep it sacred. And then once you can stand in that, it does not matter what other people think or say. And what I've also noticed too is when we can stand in conviction of it, what's interesting is no one questions you either. Once we can get into that energy, no one's questioning you, because they see you in your power and they're like, I'm not going to question that person because she's so strong in it. Why would I question that person? Yeah.
What do you feel is the key to success, and let's say whatever your definition is of wealth?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, obviously I'm biased in this, but I feel that it's coming back home to your body and to yourself, because when you're making decisions from like your intuition, you can't fuck it up even if you tried. The intuition is that voice that's never going to lead you down the wrong path. Might seem weird. It might be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this thing. I've never done this thing before. But I don't know anyone that's, oh man, I trusted my intuition and it sucked. It didn't work out, right? It's always the opposite, where it's like, I knew I should have done this thing, but I trusted this person's idea and thought. And so for me, like whatever success means for you, whatever wealth means for you, you've got to believe in it. You've got to trust it. You've got to know it to be true for yourself, and it's got to be the right thing for you. And that's why I don't teach like cookie cutter business coaching, because like, how could I ever know what your soul's meant to do, right? It's like, I can't put a container or a box on that. We've got to figure out what success means for you and build from that place. And when we build from that place, we have such a solid foundation to be able to expand and scale upon.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking.
Where does all of this fit in the in-between, right? We talk a lot about on this show being in between moments. It happens to everyone. I think business owners, it happens more often than not.
Yeah.
And how can the practices that you've just taught us these last 40 minutes make the in-between a little bit easier?
Yeah, great question. I'm so happy that you asked this because I'm a Scorpio. And if you guys don't know anything about Scorpios, they love rebirthing. And so for me, I feel like I'm always in the in-between somehow. Like I'm always in that like messy middle and coming out and transformation. So I live for this. But I've found that these tools are so helpful because one, it's a part of life. Like we all go in the in-between. Like we're never just this one thing forever. If we were, that would be so boring. Like we don't want to be like, as humans, we are evolutionary beings. And in that evolutionary process, there is the in-between. And I have studied Tantra, and Tantra is like the weaving of all of this. It's the weaving of the thing that you want to become that and letting go of who you are. And so I think of it as there's always a contraction and expansion. There's always an expansion and contraction. It's just this cycle of life. Like when we are expanding, own it, because you also know you're going to contract very soon. And then when you're in that contraction, know the expansion is coming. And so it's like in that is the in-between. And where people get stuck is they don't have these tools. They're in a state of fear. They're in a state of anxiety. They know they can't go back, but they also are trying to go back because going forward feels really scary and they don't know if they can trust themselves. And a lot of people stay stuck at the fork in the road, right? They're like, do I go down this path? Do I go down this path? I'm not going to make a decision. So I'm just going to sit here and just be complacent with where I'm at. And so what these tools do and help you is to determine what fork in the road are we going down and how do I take action on that? How do I show up? How do I follow through? By trusting myself, regulating myself, showing up for myself. But I think like the bigger thing that I'd love for people to just even take from this is normal. The in-between is normal. It's a part of life. Let's not run away from it. Let's not run away from like the contraction or the darkness or the void that we feel like we're in. Let's just say like, this is part of being human. This is all part of the process. I'm going to come out of it. I am going to come out of this. I'm going to come out of it even better than I am right now. And let me just sit in this and honor this and accept this and see what it's trying to show me. Because the in-between is where you really learn about yourself. And I find that it's like the most, like, it can be like the darkest part, but also the dark always comes into the light, right? Like we're always going from that shadow into the light because then we've transmuted, we've learned something about ourselves, we've gained a tool, we've met something or someone, or we've traveled somewhere, literally or like figuratively, we've traveled within ourselves. And I think when we can just honor the in-between and kind of give it some love because it is our greatest transformation in our life, that in-between, we can make it way more fun and not get so stuck in it and be afraid of it.
There's such power in exploration and curiosity during the in-between.
Yes.
And I always say, get curious, ask questions, and educate yourself in maybe things you never thought you were going to be educating yourself in. Yeah. Because there's a freedom in kind of not knowing where you want to go. Totally. There's a freedom in not yet knowing the answers. And for me, that's where the in-between is juicy and fun, like you said, which most people don't say it's fun. So I appreciate that perspective, but it's true. It's if you allow yourself that curiosity and that exploration, you might just find your answers and they might be completely different than where you thought you were going to go.
Oh yeah, totally. I love that. Asking those questions and being brave enough to ask those questions, I mean, it's just going to take you so far and you're going to learn so much about yourself and what you really want. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It was really exciting to have Brianna on the podcast because she actually reached out to me. She found us, which it's a first for us. So I'm super excited about it. And this episode, I'm going to be re-listening to this a lot. But I know that you have so many both free offers for your community as well as, working with you one-on-one and things like that. So I would love to take some time for you to share those and how my community can get locked in with yours.
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity to share and to just be here today. If anyone resonates with this, I'd love to connect with you all. First of all, on Instagram, I'm at I am Brianna Rose, and I share a lot of educational content about this stuff. So if you're curious, definitely head there first and foremost. There's a lot of stuff there. And then I also have a business oracle, which is a free tool to use to understand your next steps in business. If you're an entrepreneur, definitely check that out. You leave with a deep understanding of where you're meant to go, but there's also an embodiment tool in there as well for you. So definitely you can check that out. And then I have 2 core programs. One is a business building program through the body, shocker, and that is called Academy of Light. And then I also have an internationally accredited Somatics certification program, which certifies you in our meridian mapping method, and then all of the somatic tools and transformational life coaching, if that's a path that you want to walk down and build your business within.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to dive into your freebies. I was looking at them this morning and I was like, I can't wait. I just want to spend some time on a Saturday just learning all the things. So I appreciate you. We will be linking everything about Brianna into the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at In Between Combos and have a great day.